Catherine, you play tennis, right?
Yes, I have since elementary school.
Okay. But you've never played pickleball.
Never. I know absolutely nothing about it except they are warriors.
And you hate them, right? Because you only can pick one side at this moment. Is it tennis side or pickleball side? What side are you on?
As a journalist, I think I have to remain independent of this fight.
Very well
that.
said.
She's a pro.
She's already headed towards success.
That was a trick question.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, good job. Now, Jacob, you saw what was happening with the pickleball versus tennis wars.
Who couldn't? It's the top issue in today's San Diego.
It really is.
I mean, it's a travesty that anything else has been covered.
It really is. It is heated. Now, some background. Tennis and pickleball both use rackets. They both use nets. But after that, it's all different. It's a different size court. They have the little paddles for pickleball. They have the big ones for tennis. Seems like there's more movement, more athleticism going on with tennis. And pickleball is maybe a little easier to do for all kinds of people.
You better watch out. Some pickleballers may take that as some fighting words.
Yeah. Well, we know what they can do. So the pickleball guys, in particular, these two guys in San Diego that have been on kind of a warpath lately to get more pickleball courts in San Diego, that there's no dedicated spots, they say. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of space being underutilized by tennis. So we're going to go after that. And I guess what their idea is that because they both use paddles, they both have nets. Why do I keep saying tent? They both have nets. Then we should be able to, refurbish the underutilized tennis spots for pickleball. Now, the tennis folks are like, who are you calling underutilized? How dare you? And so this is played out in a number of ways. Now, before we get into it, you, Jacob, were really excited when the pickleball guys started to use some revolutionary tactics.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that we need some more armed revolution, armed with rackets, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's been quite beautiful to watch people feel as passionate as they do about the thing that makes them happy.
So he's talking about an incident at Robb Field a couple weeks ago where the pickleball guys staged a sit-in. We'll talk about it in a second at Robb Field and basically tried to take over the course that they said that the tennis guys weren't using. Police got called. It was a whole act of civil disobedience. Now, before we get into that, you have a pickleball tennis trivia.
I do. I have some trivia questions for you and Catherine.
Okay.
Let's just jump right in here.
Right.
First question. What is the phrase for a pickleballer who gently hits the ball over the net? Is it A, a dinker, B, a boinger, or C, a patter?
Catherine, I'm going to go with A because it's just fun to say.
All right, Catherine would be correct. It is a dinker.
Now, do you have to identify at the beginning like which you're going to be, like a dinker?
I don't know.
Or are you just labeled by the community?
Do you think it's like hi, my name's Jacob, I'm a dinker? I would hope so.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
Honestly, that would
Good job. One for Catherine.
Okay, now, what is the phrase for a pickleballer who hits the ball hard? Is it A, a slammer, B, a banger, or C, a blaster?
Well, I know this one. So, Scott.
Okay, what let's hear it, Scott.
It's a banger, man.
There it is. The bangers and the dinkers.
Uh-huh.
I love this. Uh-huh. Okay, where does the game get its name? Is it A, the texture on the handle of a pickleball racket? Is it B, pickleboat races? Or is it C, the family dog of the sport's founder, Pickles?
Scott.
Let's hear it.
The racket handle.
Unfortunately, you would be wrong. The game, gets its name from pickleboat races, which I had no idea what those were. But apparently in regattas, which are boat races, specifically during college, top tier programs have their people that race, and they kind of throw all of the kind of lowly guys who aren't very good at racing into boats, and they race for fun, and those are pickle boat races.
Wow.
Yeah. But there was, for many years, people thought it was the dog because the founder, actually, their family dog's name was Pickles. But Pickleball Magazine did some research and found out that the dog wasn't born until 1968, when pickleball was founded in 1965. So thank you to Pickleball Magazine for that heavy
Wait,
lift.
so it was founded in 65, but only now it's like taking over the world.
It's apparently, according to Pickleball Magazine and USA Pickleball, an organization that as you would imagine, advocates for pickleball global revolution. They in 1990, pickleball started being played in all 50 states. So it's been a long time coming. Okay, so last question. In 1984, the composite pickleball paddle was made by who? A Washington State congressperson, B, a Boeing industrial engineer, or C, a tennis racket designer?
I'm going to say, Scott, I'm going to say, that's me. I'm going to say the Boeing engineer.
You would be correct.
Because everybody always talks about pickleball as like being very plastic and having a engineered sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that just made sense.
So you think they made the racket specifically to make the sound better?
No, I think they made it to like handle a specific like bounce or trajectory well. And I don't know.
Got it.
It just seems like it handles a smaller court better.
Got it. Well, I will say as a side note, you could be forgiven for saying a Washington State congressperson because he is his name is Joel Pritchard, and he was one of the founders of pickleball in 1965. I found this timeline of important pickleball events on USA Pickleball's website. God, I feel like
this is not sponsored.
This is not sponsored. And they listed, all the important events in pickleball history. And they listed the event in 1997 of Joel Pritchard's passing away at age 72. This was what they said. Joel Pritchard passed away at age 72. Though he was Washington State's lieutenant governor from 1988 to 1996, he is probably better known for his connection to the birth of pickleball.
I was going to say, it sounds like too good of a story for a tennis player to create the racket because it would have just led to their own demise.
Yeah, no, he would have been like strung up in the tennis court town square.
All right. Part of what we're so excited about is that this has now jumped from the UT did a couple of stories about the local fight. Now the KPBS this week did it. We found out that basically there's been these two guys who've been going around San Diego and saying like, you need to expand opportunities. Now they had an idea. I had a kind of a front row seat to, because I'm involved in the Peninsula Youth Softball, right? And that's at Robb Field where they're having this dispute with the tennis club there. Mm-hmm. They had this idea to turn the tennis courts into like a for-profit pickleball like complex. Now, since then, they've decided it should be nonprofit, it should be different. But this battle between them and the tennis club there is like, it's like super intense. Like every time there's a meeting of the Robb Field Advisory Committee, these guys are like in the comments just savaging each other. And so they got like drones to check how often the tennis courts were being used and all that. It was very intense. And so this all came to a head when they did this thing at Robb Field. So this is sit-in. This is hold on. It was a little different. This is Claire Tregesser at KPBS did a piece about what was happening there and how fed up they finally got with the Robb Field situation, and it led to this.
Boylan rose up, staging what amounted to an Occupy tennis protest. Or maybe a pickle-in?
You guys do know that you have to sign in.
A pickle-in. It's called a pickle-in.
Okay.
Now, a lot of us, when we saw this fight come down, we were like, maybe you shouldn't fight and you should just make a deal because you both got paddles. you both use nets. And whoa, don't do that because both sides are intolerant of your ignorance about the sport that they love when you say that. In fact, Claire asked the guy at the Peninsula Tennis Club, why couldn't they just work out an arrangement? And here was his response.
While outsiders might wonder why they can't share tennis courts with pickleball, that just won't work, says Todd Sprague.
If you play pickleball, it has a very different sound. Okay.
You see, the sound is different. And how are you supposed to play tennis when there's this little pickleball sound going on? It drives you nuts.
Wow, this is a civil war.
So everybody is on the edge of their seats, wondering if Rob Field, sticks with tennis or somehow accommodates the pickleball. Stay tuned. Thank you, Claire Trageser. Now, you could tell in the story that Claire did for KBBS that she was like holding back a laugh the whole time, which I think all of them are probably mad at us being so like amused by their little fight. But I think it really is kind of serious. The pickleball is going nuts. They do want to place. The tennis folks are digging in. Stay tuned to see how this gets resolved.